What day is it, Mark?
Oh, good question. I was going to go on the Google machine, but I think it's Friday.
It's Friday. You know what that means, Mark?
Rapid Fire Friday.
Boom, boom, boom. Rapid Fire Friday.
Rapid Fire Friday.
All right, there we have the email bell, and our first email is from who?
Amy Elder.
All right, what is Amy asking?
Amy says, "Hi team, I hope you're doing well. I have a follow-up question to the Who's the Boss episode." And we'll link that in the description as soon as we remember what number it is. In that episode, you were talking about governments and that every government has been established by God. But with that, we need to use discernment and not blindly follow the direction of government leaders if it's unethical or against the Bible. Examples of one day government says all pastors need to marry a homosexual couple. I'm reading Paul David Tripp's Everyday Gospel as I read,
Which is a great book. I recommend it.
as I read 1 Chronicles 21. I thought of this topic, specifically in verses 1 through 4. I'm just going to paraphrase these verses. Satan stood against Israel.
Can I paraphrase him?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, you know the verses better.
Satan incites David to number Israel, take a census. And so David goes to his commander named Joab, and he says, Joab's the commander of the army, and he's like, all right, Joab, go count everybody. And Joab knows this is evil because what David's doing is trying to count his strength instead of trusting the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And Joab goes, don't do it. And David says, listen, it's my choice. I'm the king. You go do it. And so Joab did, and he went and counted all the people. And then she asks,
In these verses, David just urged to do a census of the people of Israel by Satan, and it seems like Joab is trying to talk David out of it because it's not what the Lord wants. It seems like Joab knows the census is against what God wants, but still goes through with David's, the king of Israel, wishes. After Joab provides David with the census, it seems like God is only angry with David. Is that right, or did I miss something?
that is correct. That's correct. We'll do first part.
Yep.
Yes, God is angry with David because he had ultimate responsibility. He's king. Joab is not. And so David is the one who's responsible here. And so the other reality is that commanders did not cross kings, right? So whatever the king wanted, the king was the ultimate. We're used to living in a place in a time where no one is ostensibly above the law. In this place here at that time, the king was the law. So whatever the king said, that went. And so for Joab to say, hey, you shouldn't do that, David, was a very, that's not, people didn't do that, right? And so that was reckless of Joab because David could have killed him right there or replaced him. And so his appeal, he appealed, and yet David still commanded him to go out and number everybody. And so God is primarily angry at David because David's responsible, and David used Joab to bring about his will.
Oh, that's good. So that pretty much answers it, right? I mean,
why wasn't he angry with Joab as well?
Yeah.
I mean, because David's the focus here, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Is it like Adam and Eve in the garden?
No, Joab had authority. It would be like Adam and Eve in the garden if Joab comes and says, "Hey, let's count everybody," and David goes, "Well, okay." But that's not what happened. It was the other way around.
I see.
And so David has the idea, which is evil, because it's a way in which he's not trusting the Lord. And Joab says, don't do that. And he does it anyway. And so there we have David, who's responsible all the way throughout. The Lord surely wasn't pleased with Joab, but that wasn't the focus of the passage.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the question, Amy. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. It's a great question.
That's the email bell.
There it is.
This one comes from Catherine Jordan.
Yes.
Hello, friends. Can you explain what it means to believe Unitarianism or not believe in the Trinity, I guess, and why it's heretical? Thanks.
Well, anybody who doesn't believe in the Trinity is not a Christian, first of all, because it is what that means then is they believe in the oneness of God, and they do not hold that Jesus is God, right? So he's an inspired teacher, but he's not God. And the other problem, so the Unitarians do not believe Christ is God. They don't believe that God the Father, God the Son, and God the Spirit are all one and three. And so that's just a classic example of heresy. The other element of Unitarianism that is heretical is that they're also universalists, where they believe that there is no such thing, that everybody will be saved. And so they'll embrace a wide range of spiritual perspectives, and they do not believe that there's any spiritual standard, any biblical standard to salvation. So Unitarians, anybody who believes there is no Trinity, is automatically um, they that by definition that demotes Jesus. And anybody who demotes Jesus, like the Mormons or the Jehovah's Witnesses, that is then you're worshiping someone who's not God. Jesus is Lord. He is Lord Most High. And so it's a heresy for at least those two reasons: no Trinity, and then misunderstanding of Jesus, and then also everybody gets saved. And so that's not in line with biblical truth. So thanks for the question, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you. That's the email bell again. Just a reminder, if you want to ask questions anonymously, you're more than welcome to do so. This is one of those anonymous questions. Is contextual theology legitimately orthodox? And then there's a second part. What is the difference between practical theology and legalism?
Yeah. Okay. So contextual theology is so it's an approach to theology that is reads the Bible in light of cultural and social realities instead of vice versa, right? And so we've talked about this before in another setting where we've talked about liberation theology, where you've got people that redefine what the Bible means, and they read it through a lens of oppression. This is what folks do who are steeped in critical theory. They are going to see the Bible to be a story of, in every place, liberation from oppression. That's part of the story, but that's not the story. And so contextual theology, what it does is it reads the Bible through a lens of social experience and culture, and interprets the Bible through a cultural lens, which is always going to be wrong. And so there are different applications for each culture, but at the same time, the biblical truth that is in the Bible is something that is not bound by culture. And so it takes certain understandings, right? When you read the scriptures, and when Paul says, "Bring my cloak with you when you come and visit me," we can't obey that, right? That's limited to time and space, right? When he says, "Greet everyone with a holy kiss," I mean, that was the ancient Near Eastern practice of how to greet somebody, where today we shake hands, right? And so those kinds of examples are examples that are really red herrings to people. But what they try to do is they look at the Bible through the lens of poverty and injustice, and or feminist theology or indigenous theology. And what they do then is they read the Bible through that lens, and it's dangerous, and it's not to say we can't learn from other cultures, but we can't twist the Bible to say what it doesn't say in service of the cultural narrative, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that's great. The second part was, what is the difference between practical theology and legalism?
Yeah, practical theology and legalism. That's a good question. Practical theology is it's like ethics. It's the branch of Christian theology focused on applying theological beliefs to everyday life, right? It's bridging the gap between experience and doctrine, Christian truth, right? Like one example is when we think about the Ten Commandments and it says you shall not steal. We think about, okay, what is stealing? Stealing is stealing someone's intellectual property. Stealing can be, copying too many pages out of a book that's copyrighted. Stealing can be all kinds of different things. So that's informing someone's conscience as to what stealing is, right? And so practical theology is essentially ethics applied. And so there's lots of debate on what that looks like. But, it's important to think through as a Christian, what is a lie? What is speech that encourages, and those kinds of things. Now, legalism is when you set a standard that is extra biblical for salvation. And that's different. So practical theology applies the Bible. Legalism means you have to adhere to a certain set of rules and moral codes to earn salvation or favor with God. So, for example, it's easy to shoot back at other cultures and times and places, but it would be legalistic to say that it's always wrong to play cards or drink alcohol. That's legalism, because the Bible doesn't say that it's wrong to do either of those things. Now, it's wrong to do those two things in excess, especially alcohol. And so, I don't have the right to lay upon people things that are extra biblical, something as silly as you have to date a year before you get married, or you can't take more than 2 vacations in a year, or all kinds of things like that. Those are legalistic practices that I don't have, or anyone else has the right to lay upon people, where practical theology is the responsible expression of what it looks like to live as a Christian in the world today.
That's great. Yeah. And that's all the questions I have for now.
For now, but there will be another Friday that comes, because you know what, Mark? They come once every 7 days.
Every 7.
Every 7. And so Rapid Fire Friday, we'll be back.
All right. Well, I'm going to hold you to that.
All right. Sounds good.
Take care, guys.
Yo.